Hey, what's going on YouTube? This is Technology Mafia, and today I'm doing a comparison that not very many of you asked for, but I was just curious for myself. Because as you may know, I recently bought the Zeiss 16-70 f4 lens, and it has been a great lens. However, I've always wondered how much better is it than the humble little kit lens. Now this is kind of an unfair comparison because this is $800 versus about $100, maybe $150. So there's about $700 in difference between these two lenses. So the Zeiss lens is here on the left and the kit lens is on the right. Now the kit lens is a small portable power zoom, so it does extend out about to here once it is powered on and you are using it. The Zeiss also extends out a ways. When both of these lenses are collapsed, however, the Zeiss is about 2.5 times the length of the kit lens. So the kit lens is much easier to take with you. Zeiss you have to pack, and it is not nearly as easy to take everywhere with you. Build quality, the Zeiss definitely excels. You can feel that it is made out of premium materials. Everything is smooth, the focus ring, the zoom ring, everything looks and feels very nice. Around the back, very similar to the kit lens, metal mounts. The kit lens is not a horrible lens. You can tell that mine has seen a few years of use and abuse, so some of the paint is peeling and it's not as smooth as it used to be as far as zooming in and out, but it still works and it still takes pictures and videos, so no complaints there. Alright, so before we look at the sample images, I will warn you that I am not by any means a professional photographer. I am very much an amateur videographer and photographer. I have an A6000, an A6300, and a bunch of different lenses that I like to test out on occasion. So here are the sample images from both of these lenses. Here are two portraits, both of these shot at around 50 millimeters. You could see the 16-70 is actually at 53 millimeters because it's hard to estimate just looking at the ring. So these look almost identical, shot at the same settings, 1/60th of a second, f5.6, ISO 100. If you look at the bokeh, they are about the same. In this case, I think the kit lens is a slightly creamier bokeh, so it wins in that regard. Let's look at subject focus in the eyes. The Zeiss is sharper, but it is very slight. There's not a huge difference here, but you can tell that the face is a little softer on the kit lens. Look at the lips, colors, sharpness here is not as good as the Zeiss. You move over to the hair, you notice that the Zeiss is sharper here as well. So in this particular case, I think that the Zeiss does win if you are zooming in to look at the details. If you're just going to leave it like this and upload this picture, I guarantee you that 95% of your friends will never tell the difference between either one of these photos. So the next image, this is shot at 35 millimeters, also at f5.6. It's actually 34 millimeters on the power zoom because I was slightly off there. So let's take a look at the corners first. So this is really bokeh. They look about the same to me. The kit lens might be a little creamier. Let's look just behind the subject. The kit lens does look a little creamier to me. So about the same though, very little difference. Let's look at center sharpness or subject sharpness. Alright, so in this case, it is even a little bit more difficult to tell the difference, I think, at 35 millimeters. The Zeiss is still ever so slightly sharper. You can tell in the eyes, but it is very, very close. Looking at the hair, even the hair in this case is almost the same. Very little difference between the kit and the Zeiss in this case. Kind of surprising. I was expecting the Zeiss to blow the kit lens away at shots like this, but it certainly does not. I mean, it does a little better, but nowhere near what I expected. So that scarf looks about the same. Everything else looks very, very similar. So in this image, I wanted to test out sharpness as well as chromatic aberration or purple fringing in the corners. So Zeiss on the left here, let's take a look at center sharpness. Zeiss is slightly sharper, not very noticeable though. Let's look at all the way to the left. So the Zeiss is sharper here. However, look at the purple fringing. You do get a lot of that with the Zeiss, and this is something that I noticed in my very early testing of the Zeiss 16-70 is there's a lot of chromatic aberration. The kit lens obviously is not very sharp here, but it suffers from less of that fringing. Let's look at the top corner. Kind of same story here. The kit lens is nowhere as sharp. The Zeiss is sharper, but look at the color fringing here. Right corner. Less color fringing here, but you can definitely tell that the kit lens is not as sharp. And bottom right. Definite win for the Zeiss here, but purple fringing. Here is another picture of just a walkway, tree trunk here. Looks the same to me. I can't tell much of a difference at all. Right corner here. Okay, so in this right corner, very close, Zeiss is slightly sharper, maybe by 10%. Yes, I would give this side to the Zeiss. Upper right corner, sharper on the Zeiss for sure. Upper left corner, similar to the previous picture, it is sharper on the Zeiss. However, you get a lot of that purple fringing on that trunk and then on this post and around the branch area. The kit lens falls apart here in the corner at f4. If you go down, Zeiss is definitely sharper here. But surprising to me is just center sharpness. I don't see much, if any, difference between these two in the centers. It's not a very noticeable difference unless you're pixel peeping into the corners. At 16 millimeters, the kit lens seems to be slightly wider, and I don't know why that is. It probably has to do with the camera's in-body correction for distortion. You can kind of see a slight bow in this post with the Zeiss, whereas it looks fairly straight with the kit lens. We'll take a look at barrel distortion in a future image here. This shot is done at 50 millimeters. I am trying to see if there's any discernible difference in colors. So we'll start with just the center. Both look good to me. The colors are a bit deeper on the Zeiss, but not significantly. If we go up, there is a bit more detail in the trees with the Zeiss, but again, not massive in difference. Definitely sharper in the corners. And this one is stopped down to f10. Unfortunately, the kit lens is not as sharp in the corners. If we go look at upper left, same story. Fortunately, no purple fringing here on the Zeiss. The kit lens is a bit soft. Let's go right corner. Less of a difference here, but the kit lens is not quite as sharp. If we look at the side, interesting. The kit lens is definitely sharper. And if you look at the bark, kind of mixed results. I think that this one will go to the Zeiss. But again, if you were stepping back and looking at this picture as a whole, it's not a massive difference at all. So I mentioned barrel distortion, and this is the shot that I took to compare barrel distortion between both of these lenses. And if you can't tell, the 16-70 does suffer from more barrel distortion. Now this camera, the a6000 that I used to shoot both of these lenses, should correct for distortion in body because I'm shooting JPEG instead of RAW. So this is what you will get straight out of the camera. Let's see if might be easier if I just switch. So here is the kit lens, and here is the 16-70 Zeiss. So kit, Zeiss, kit, Zeiss, kit, Zeiss, kit, Zeiss. If you see that the garage door is becoming more circular, that is barrel distortion. So the lines on the garage door are not straight, the top line, and then the side of the house is curved outward on the Zeiss, whereas it's pretty straight with the kit lens. So the kit lens at 16 millimeters does a better job with distortion, is my conclusion. As far as sharpness between these two, they're about the same. I would venture to say that the kit lens is even a little sharper looking at the corners. Kit lens is sharper here, this bottom corner. Kit lens is sharper. Let's see, the top. The Zeiss is sharper here, but you have that purple fringing right there. Kind of annoying. This corner, Zeiss might be a little sharper here, but very close. So I think that the winner in this case is definitely the kit lens, less distortion, and it's sharper in areas such as this lock. Okay, and this is the last image. This is a very close portrait of my wife at 50 millimeters, 51 on the Zeiss lens. And so let's take a look at this one. So let's start with background blur bokeh. About identical. Not much difference there. Let's take a look at sharpness on the eye. Okay, interesting. I was not expecting this, so I don't know how to explain it, but the kit lens here at 50 millimeters, at f8, at ISO 100, at 1/125 of a second, is sharper than the Zeiss, and you can notice that just by looking at the eyelashes here in the bottom, the skin, and it's quite noticeably sharper, which is surprising. I expected the Zeiss to perform a lot better. This eye is the same. The kit lens is definitely sharper. Let's take a look at the hair. Again, kit lens is sharper. I don't know what's happening here with the Zeiss, but the kit lens takes this one. So for very up close subjects, and this is probably 3 feet, 4 feet away from the lens, the kit lens performs better at f8. Surprising. Unbelievable, really, when you are considering that this kit lens is $100 and you're comparing it to an $800 Zeiss lens, and the $100 lens looks better. It's crazy. Alright, so after looking at the sample images, I'm sure there are going to be a few of you that are going to be upset and maybe some angry at the results because, well, you expected the Zeiss to perform much better than it did. And that is how I feel. I spent $800 on this lens, and I honestly did expect it to blow the kit lens out of the water, and I don't think it did, and that's disappointing because I've always heard of good things from Zeiss, and I've always respected Zeiss as a brand and as a company. When doing lens reviews, you have to be objective, and at times it's difficult to make these sorts of comparisons because you expected one result and you get another. Now, undoubtedly, there will be a bunch of you in the comments section down below saying, well, your copy of the Zeiss is probably bad and it's probably defocused. I can tell you that comparing this to other images that I've seen online, my copy is a good copy. It does not vary in sharpness from left to right, and that was the issue with QC when it comes to the Zeiss 16-70. And I purchased this brand new. I've only really used it for about 4 to 5 days. This kit lens I've had for 2 years, almost 2 years, maybe over 2 years. And I have used and abused this kit lens. So if any lens has an excuse for quality control issues or being used and abused, it's the kit lens, it's not the Zeiss. The Zeiss is definitely a nice lens. It is sharper in most situations. If you are doing wedding photography or videography, I would definitely recommend getting the best glass you can. And in this case, I would say that the Zeiss is a better lens. It's just not better for most amateur photographers. If you are a casual photographer, if you're on a budget, if you are looking for something that's portable, just to throw in your camera bag and take with you on your adventures and vacations, go with the kit lens. It really impressed me in this comparison. I was expecting it to do much worse than it did. I'm curious as to what your guys' thoughts are, so post down comments down below. If you have any questions about either of these lenses, be sure to post them down below. If you're interested in checking either one of these out on Amazon, I'll post Amazon links. That is really it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Stay subscribed. If you aren't subscribed, be sure to hit that subscribe button below and stay tuned for future videos. Thank you and have a nice day. Bye-bye.